late starting. But welcome everybody. Welcome to our new auditors in person, and we've got our old auditors, I think, online. Yes, see them. Welcome to our chief exec, who's also online, following his operation. And welcome to everybody else in person. We'll make a start. The first item on the agenda is the evacuation procedure. Excuse me. On hearing the evacuate signal, please carry out the following. Exit the building by your nearest safest exit, which is either behind you there or the way you came in. All visitors report to assembly point G. All staff report to their designated assembly point on Woolpack Way car park, which is the car park just here, and do not leave the assembly point for any reason until told to do so by the incident controller or fire brigade officer. Apologies for absence. Members away on official council business. Am I expecting Steve, I think?
Julie, do you have those? It would seem to me that apologies from councillors Simpson, Ryrie and Goslin, with councillors Osborne, Chapman and Watson as their substitutes.
That's right, yes.
Thank you. Item number 3, disclosable pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. There are none. Item number 4 is public participation. Excuse me. I don't see any members of the public, and I don't think I've received any questions. Item number 5 are the minutes of the Executive Board held on the 16th of September of this year, which are the ones that everybody should have had on their desks. There's a slight amendment to the ones that were published, and that was on item number 28, the local government charter. So with those amendments, are you proposing? That's being proposed and seconded by Councillor Ridley. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. We're now going to, because we've got the external visitors, going to bring forward item 8 as the next item, which is the draft financial statements for 2021-22 and 2022-23. So the financial statements for the 2 years have now been completed and published. This report highlights the outturned position on the general fund and housing revenue account compared with the estimated position previously being reported. The accounts for these years have not been presented to members previously due to the uncertainty with regard to backlog audits. The next item on this agenda, item 9, is the external auditor's report, which details the issues and the approach to these year's accounts. Do I have any comments, questions, queries? No. So I will move that from the chair then, and seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour? Item number 9 is the external auditor's completion report with governance for the years 2021-22 and 2022-23. So the accounts for those years have been reported as item 8. This report advises members of the completion report issued by Ernst Young on those accounts. Members will be aware of the issues regarding local government audit in recent years, and the government has issued a backstop date of the 13th of December for opinions to be issued on accounts up to and including 2022-23. As a result, therefore, Ernst & Young are expecting to issue a disclaimed opinion for those years. Accounts for the reasons set out in the report and Appendix A. Members are also requested to approve delegation to sign the letter of representation for both years. The representative of Ernst Young is online to answer any questions. Mark Hodgson, I believe, who was taken over from Maria. Does anybody have any questions for Mark? No? Okay. So I think the agenda says it's recommended to the full council, but it's recommended to the board. It should say recommended to the board. So I'll move the recommendation from the chair, seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 10 is the external auditor's report value for money interim report for the years 2021-22 and 2022-23. So this report presents the value for money interim report for the years ended 31st of March 22 and 31st of March 2023, received from the council's external auditors Ernst & Young. Due to the issue with backlog audits, the auditors have taken the decision to report on both years in the same document. Members are asked to note the report. As with the last item, Mark Hodgson from Ernst & Young is online to answer any questions. Should anybody have any? This is going to be very quick. So, okay. So there are no questions, and so I shall I shall move the recommendation. As in the previous item, it's recommended to the board, not the full council. Seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour? That is unanimous again. So thank you very much. Item number 11 is the external auditor's plan report. So this report presents the audit plan for the year ended 31st of March 2024, received from the council's new external auditors, AZETS. The report also includes AZETS plans for rebuilding assurance during the recovery period caused by the backlog issues discussed elsewhere on the agenda. And Chris Brown from AZETS is here with us this evening to answer any questions. Should anybody have any? I think it's not a question. I met with Chris and Steve the other day, last week, and I think it's nice and refreshing to see AZETS getting to the grip. We all know the issues in previous years, but as the report says, there's the plan now to get the council back onto the audits in a timely fashion, and the start of hopefully a mutually beneficial relationship with our new auditors. I found it interesting, informative, and comforting meeting Chris and his colleague from AZETS, and not just because I'm an accountant as well, but I think it's all good. So. Sorry. Getting a little bit too informal.
Yeah, just a quick question, because obviously the deadlines for this are quite tight, because it's due by February, and the plan says subject to sufficient support. Do we have sufficient resources to support those sort of timescales?
We are confident, are we not, Alison, that we are? Yes, we do have those. And as equally, from the Gazette's point of view that, you know, that's what the plan said. You know, it is reasonably a tight, reasonably tight timescale, but we're, you know, both parties are confident that that time frame can be met. I think again, it's important to note that the 23-24 audit will be disclaimed as previously, because there's no confidence. You know, obviously there's no assurance, not confidence, no assurance of the opening figures. But equally, the 2024-25 audit will also be disclaimed because of that sort of inherited, you know, backlog, etc. But the report set out that basically it's a recovery plan. So the 2023-24 will be disclaimed in a pretty sort of quick-ish audit. 2024 will be a more full audit, but it will still be disclaimed. But then moving forward, it will be all singing, all dancing, and we'll all have smiles on our faces. And as I say, that, you know, we're a mutually beneficial relationship. Yep. Anybody got any other questions? No. Thank you very much for coming, Chris. Normally you would get more, but I think the one member is not here.
Yeah.
He likes to question auditors. So I'll move the recommendation from the chair. As previously mentioned, this item is also recommendations to the board, not the to board council. So moved from the chair, seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
I might take my absence. Thank you for the invitation.
Don't know what you're missing.
I'm not trying to tell you.
Okay. So we'll move back now to item number 6, which is the electoral review stage 2. And apologies to Martin. Again, Martin is joining us online because he has been reliant on public transport today, and public transport has failed. So hence the reason Martin is online and not here in person. So members will be aware that the Local Government Boundary Commission is conducting a review of ward boundaries in North Warwickshire. This report asks the board to consider the council's response to stage 2 of that review. The commission held an information event in the chamber last month, and a number of member workshops have been held. The commission is seeking submissions on a new pattern of wards for the borough. The commission is asking for general views, but particularly relating to the current variances in the electorate outlined in Appendix 1 to this report. There are a number of wards that were the current ward boundary be retained would have a projected electorate outside the ideal ward size. So officers will continue to work on a draft response to be submitted ahead of the deadline of the 25th of January next year, and it will be necessary to hold an additional council meeting in mid-January for members to consider the final response. One key thing to consider is that whether members propose a change to ward boundaries or not, officers will still need evidence to support a no change proposal as well. So as mentioned, you know, previously, the status quo can be an option, but you've got to basically through I threw a needle tell the Boundary Commission why you want the status quo, even if the numbers make sense to, you know, to the the average number of electorate in the ward, even if that happens, you're still going to say, well, yeah, this is why we think we want the status quo to remain. It's important, I think, to note those words of the boundary commissioners themselves saying, we're doing this with you, not to you. It feels really very much like they are doing it to us. But we are where we are, and we have to follow the rules. So, as Martin's put in the report, and as I've said, another workshop to get those boundaries. There are, 3 or 4, aren't there, wards where there's quite sort of disparate figures within the electorate, which is interesting, to say the least, because the one thing I've tried to sort of reiterate and put across to the Boundary Commission is there are a number of areas, particularly in North Warwickshire, it's a very rural world and a rural borough, and communities are very different. Even neighbouring communities are very different. So to me, at least, it's important that you've got community cohesion. So in those wards, wards need to have, well, basically you need to put communities that get on with each other, don't you? So it'll be interesting to see if the Boundary Commission, and I fear not, will take those recommendations, because it seems to me that all they're interested about is numbers, and not greatly about community cohesion and all the rest. But we shall see. Martin, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say that based on the numbers you can see at Appendix 1, there's kind of 3 areas that have come out as a kind of 3 areas of concern, if you like, which effectively, if you take Basley and Grendon and Dordon together, there's one area that's quite a lot too big, quite a lot too small next to each other. So makes some sense there to do that. So take those 2 wards together. Then if you take Coleshill North and Coleshill South together, there's probably a line there between North and South that needs addressing, which might fix that problem. So splitting up Coleshill within itself, just splitting up Coleshill differently, that should be relatively straightforward, I hope. But then the really thorny issue is if you take Polesworth East, West, and then Newton Regis and Wharton at the top of the borough, you'll see in that appendix that because of Aldicott changing quite considerably, it'll be 42% too big, Newton Regis and Wharton, in 5 years' time. So there's a real issue there where we cannot in any way justify the status quo. And if you take the 2 Polesworth wards plus Newton Regis and Wharton, it may be a solution just using those wards there. But having said that, that will have knock-on effects potentially on Dordon as well, which at the moment is again too small and could take on from Polesworth. So it's kind of those are the 3 areas that really need some work. I have met with a number of councillors already who have come up with some suggestions, which I haven't been able to draw up and say, right, here's an idea yet. But my next plan is to come out on a ward-by-ward basis to say, right, for example, if your ward is one of the ones that might have status quo, so for example for Longley, I'm sure, Chair, you're happy with it as it is, fine, that's absolutely fine. I can justify that to a certain extent. I'm going to need some help. So I'll come out with draft proposals, but I will start with the wards where we've got massive problems first, because the things will come down the line. So what might look like a status quo one at the moment might not end up that way once we've kind of carried forward all of the problems, because of course, you take from one area, it has knock-on impacts. So so members have been quite engaged already. I am going to have to come out with some more concrete solutions to some of these problems, especially, as I say, where those reds and yellows are in the appendix.
Thank you, Martin. Councillor Ridley.
Martin, just to clarify if I can, they've said previously that just because you've got houses planned, so we've got allocated houses in our local plan, that's not a trigger for actually keeping or sort of forecasting, say Dordon's we are thought, the fact that we are going to have, within the next few years as our housing trajectory increases, that we aren't going to have those voters. It just means that obviously we're going to be doing this all over again. Just to mention, if you put Dordon and Grendon together, then might have a small riot. Just to...
Okay, absolutely. And then take the point about community cohesion and shoving communities together. So you're quite right, Councillor, and Councillor Amelia's been in touch with me and tried to make some suggestions for changes to Dordon that might work, which take on from Polesworth and potentially Birchmoor rather than from Barnsley and Grendon, which might work better. But I suppose what we can do with Dordon is, you're right, if you look at that projected electorate in 5 years' time, that's probably not as big as you think it's going to be, based on borough plan allocations and things like that. What we will have to do with Dordon, I think, to future-proof it as best we can, is make it 10% too small or 9% too small as part of our proposals. That will mean it's a little bit too small for now, but it won't be completely out of date straight away. I think any areas like that where, as far as we're concerned, the Boundary Commission have been too conservative, small c conservative, and not included figures you think should be, we'll have to make them a bit too small if we can, and that will give us a bit more lifetime before those wards get far too big.
Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. One of the other concerns I have around just a numbers game as such, and looking at numbers, is that doesn't necessarily always reflect an elected member's level of work. Now, if you look at like Coleshill Moor, for example, Curdworth, Wateralton, minus numbers, but all of those wards have got HS2, and that takes up a huge amount of an elected member's time. So just looking at numbers and numbers of electorates, I don't think it's a particularly scientific way of trying to work out workload.
Quite right. It's not one of the criterias. Of course, that was what the argument we tried to make earlier about needing more members. I think, like you say, it starts as a numbers game, unfortunately, and then becomes but there are other two criteria that are in the report about reflecting interests and identities of communities, and then making convenient local government. I think it's the convenient local government, effective and convenient local government is the third criteria, which, if we're saying because of particular local issues, it's not as convenient or effective to have a particularly large, say if Wateralton, for example, was projected to grow massively, we don't want to project, for those areas to be massively larger in electorate because of the ongoing issues. And you might say the same for a different area where there's lots of deprivation. You don't want those wards to be pushing plus 10%, plus 9%, because you've got more casework for those reasons as well. So, but I suppose not everywhere can be too small. There's no real silver bullet there. I've not really answered your question, but I don't think the Commission will really consider what you're raising, I'm afraid. So you are right.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Councillor Watson. I mean, the Boundary Commission have made it pretty clear that they don't care about things like that, because they were very dismissive, were they not, of the when we asked that question, and why have they taken the decision to reject our option of increasing the number of councillors? They just said because, well, more or less because we have. No explanation. Well, we have. I'll refer you to the comment I made some moments ago about doing it with us, not to us, because the proof is not in the pudding, is it? But we are where we are, unfortunately, and that's the thing. Purely selfishly, they don't take into consideration geographical ward boundaries either. I mean, it takes me, half an hour to get from one side of my ward to another, but they won't take that into consideration either. There we go. Okay. Excuse me. So I'll move the recommendation from the chair.
If I may, Chair, before you do, there's the recommendation to organise an additional council meeting in January to try and sign off a council-wide response, which of course we're aiming at one response for the entire council. There are 2 dates that have been floating around that we haven't had a chance to share with group leaders yet. Can I potentially share those with you now with a view to getting them nailed down at this meeting? Which would be the 15th or 23rd of January. That's just in advance of the consultation finishing. So leaving it as late as we can, really. 15th or 23rd of Jan.
You don't want a decision though now, presumably. 3 years.
Either now or at council, I think, would be the other thing. So if they can,
Yeah, though, if you
Yeah.
wanted leader.
So we'll ask you, Claire, I'll remember those dates, or somebody will remember them for me. And if you take those to your group, and then we can come back at full council, as you say, Martin, and firm that date up. Thank you very much. So I'll move from the chair, seconded by Councillor Ridley. Thank you. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 7 is the feedback policy. The legal service is currently reviewing a number of policies, and a new feedback policy setting out how the council will deal with formal complaints is reported to members for comment and adoption. I think it's a very good policy. Anybody got Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I thought it was really good and I wanted to welcome it. I've got a couple of questions. I know we're a very flat organisation in terms of hierarchy, but there have been instances in the past where when complaints come in, where a particular officer has been mentioned, that officer is the first one to deal with the complaint. And where possible, we should avoid that because it doesn't look good to the public. So I know we're limited, as I say, on our levels, but if that can be written into the policy somewhere, that would be really helpful. And the other point I wanted to make, I was really pleased to see that the feedback from complaints was going to be, as it were, absorbed by the organisation to see if there's some improvements we could make. I was just curious as to how that happens. Is there a central point within the offices, necessarily with us, that says, you know, we've had these complaints and these are the lessons we could learn? Not quite sure how that would work. And then when you feed back to us about complaints, it would be really helpful if on there you could say, and these are the changes we've made as a result of the complaints. Thank you.
Chair, may I?
Thank you.
It's an ongoing review, so I'd like to implement something so I can report back what positive feedback is, what changes are being implemented in terms of complaints against officers. Complaints first come to me, I review them, and then it's sent on to either the manager. It won't be sent to officers to deal with in the first instance. And then there's a hierarchy of who to go to next. So that's how hopefully we're dealing with them. Thank you.
Councillor Clues.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad this has come out really, you know, especially when it's letter, because we have a lot of elderly residents still in Addiston. You know, got anything. I've seen them standing outside waiting to use the phone in the foyer to phone up. But the problem I've had several times is they put the complaint into the call centre, and then I think after a couple of days they've got in touch with me because they've heard nothing. So I've got in touch with the department who can complain about, and it hasn't gone from the call centre up to the person or whichever, you know, department it is. And I've had that several times.
Chair, yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to undertake several training sessions. I've done quite a lot of work on data protection in the last month or so. I'll be implementing some training to officers on how to take a complaint, who to forward it to, and what happens next. So there will be a process in place and the timescale of how long it takes to get to us.
Thank you.
I've got Councillor Ryan next.
Thank you, Chair. 3 matters. Yes, I agree with Councillor Bell. I think it is a draft. It's a good policy. We make a couple of observations. The first is in terms of page 17, which is that's the responsibility of this council, such as highways. I think it's really important that we have a clear signposting policy in place, because somebody feels motivated enough to complain. And it's not acceptable for us just to turn around and say, no, it's not us. We need either a robust fee signposted or referral policy to make sure that those concerns that are being raised are heard and addressed. The other point that I thought reading the policy, there is no mention members being briefed on any of these complaints. As a ward member, I think that if we do have significant complaints or vexatious complaints about matters to do with North Warwickshire within my ward, I would want to know about those complaints. I would appreciate knowing who is making them, so that I can ensure that quality of the service that the ward member delivers is appropriate to the needs of that person. I think the other area which need to be briefed on complaints are the wards and the chairs of wards. I can't see any reference to briefing in the policy.
Sophia, did you want?
Thank you, Chair. I can review that and take it into consideration. I'm also updating quite a number of policies, such as the data protection policy, which will highlight exactly what goes to members and what feedback is provided as part of the data protection policy. So I'm reviewing quite a number of policies. I'll take that into account when reviewing the next policies and looking at this before being published.
Thank you. Councillor Waffles.
Thanks, Chair. I concur with Councillor Clues. Sorry, I've got a frog in the throat. Councillor Clues with the comments made about some of the public raising comments and complaints and not always getting the appropriate responses. So I would welcome any of this transparency and any of this training that can only help with this, because I think the most important people in all this, in the feedback 360, is the actual complainant. Yes, we need to have sight of it and deal with it and action it and so on, but these people are raising it, they're good enough to raise it. So I think it's very important that they're the ones that are first in line to get the feedback in the first place. So I would welcome any training, so thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Busy reading something there. Now, mine's more of a comment really than a question, but it's good to see that we're all engaging with this policy, that they're always subject to improvement, that it's a live document as such. So the fact that we can add value into it, as we've seen from over the way, is excellent. It's something that I think we should always strive to get our policy and procedures updated every so often. It should be revisited, just to sense check it and make sure it's still doing what we want it to do. So I welcome this review and the chance for us all to add into it.
Thank you. Councillor Clues.
I just come back on what's been said. I mean, as you know, I'm the councillor for complaints to do with housing, and I have a meeting monthly with the senior housing, and we go through all the complaints and see what stage they're at, and it works really well. It really does. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any more questions, so I will move that recommendation from the chair, seconded by Councillor Clues or Sophia.
Just a slight amendment, it's a recommendation to the board. The report says to council.
Another one. Thank you. No problem. So that's a recommendation to the board. So it has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 12, which is the budgetary control report for 2024-25. This report informs members of the revenue, expenditure and income for the period from the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of October of this year, together with an estimate of the outturn position for services reporting to the board. Any comments, queries? Questions? Variance of £700. Pretty good. No? So again, I'll move that from the chair, seconded by councillor Simmons. All those in favour? That is unanimous, thank you. Excuse me. Item number 13 is the medium-term financial strategy 2024 to 2029. This report summarises the authority's updated medium-term financial strategy as attached in Appendix A. It also projects forward the authority's general fund budgets from fund budgets to 2028-29 and suggests a budget approach for the 2025-26 general fund budget. The strategy is reviewed annually and follows the consistent approach the council has taken to its financial position over a number of years. The strategy reflects the current economic challenges and financial pressures facing the council and is reported in the context of a high degree of uncertainty facing the sector currently. The position set out in the strategy is at a high level, with the detail to follow in the budget reports to boards leading up to the budget in February 2025. Challenging times, I think we can all agree, particularly following the autumn statement at the end of October, which has left a huge degree of uncertainty, not just for local authorities, but for the country as a whole. But we are where we are. I'll move the recommendation from the chair if there are no further questions. Seconded by councillor Simmons. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item number 14 is the remote attendance and proxy voting. The government is currently consulting on allowing councils to allow member attendance at meetings remotely and provisions for proxy voting in certain circumstances when members are not able to attend a meeting. Members are asked to note the consultation and the board is invited to agree comments to be fed back to the government. Individual councillors and members of the public can give feedback directly on the link provided in the report. My personal feeling is that remote attendance should only be allowed in exceptional circumstances such as maternity, paternity, serious illness, but not as the norm. And proxy voting, in my opinion, should not be allowed at all. Anybody got any, councillor Barnett?
I mean, my general feeling is that hybrid meetings don't generally work very well. Meetings work best either when everyone is in the room or when everyone is remote and not a mix of the two.
Yeah.
So my personal opinion is that there should be provision to hold fully remote meetings in an emergency, if the council house burnt down or something, for example.
Can we all touch wood?
Yeah, but yeah, my personal opinion is I don't think individuals should really be allowed routinely. I mean, the working group meetings are more relaxed and those sort of things are fine, but the normal council meetings, I don't really agree with it other than extreme circumstances.
Seen from the same hymn sheet. Councillor Barnett, thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're looking at it, but my feelings on this are it's exceptional, very, very exceptional circumstances. And again, it sort of aligns with what's been said previously, that if that is the case, I would prefer it to be that everybody is remote or everybody is in person. Again, it's my personal feeling is that it should be for extremely exceptional circumstances, like you mentioned, the hospital appointments, things like that, where it could be right that happened for those reasons. But how that gets judged or what the criteria would be, I don't know enough about it.
Okay, Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Chair. Does this consultation cover parish councils as well, or just the district council?
Well, it does, yeah, the parish and town councils are be consulted as well. Yes, they are. No, I mean, I agree. Having, we've all, we've been through COVID and we tried to have, full council meetings online. And to be perfectly honest, I think we did pretty well compared to some of our immediate neighbours. But it's a nightmare, really, isn't it? For it stifles, in my opinion, anyway. It stifles debate. It's exceptionally hard to manage with whoever's chairing the meeting, because unless you've got, a 65-inch screen in front of you so you can see all the members and their hands going up and all the rest, it's a nightmare. As I said, yeah, and as you agree, for exceptional circumstances, our own Councillor Riley, clearly, prior to being able to come in a wheelchair, then that's an exceptional circumstance. But for the norm, just because you can't be bothered to turn up, I just don't think it's right. And as I said before, proxy voting, I don't think should be allowed at all. They don't allow that in the Commons, so why should we consider allowing it in council chambers? Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I absolutely agree with what's been said. And I think we need to look at it from the other side as well, what our residents, what the public think, and they expect us to be here. And I think it would be really difficult to explain if somebody was, unless it's exceptional circumstances. So, yeah, I think that's another argument for that.
Councillor Simmons.
Yeah, I hadn't properly understood that it would affect parish councils too and small town councils. And I think it's all very well and good. We've got the infrastructure as a district and boroughs, but some of the smaller parishes would struggle with that. And then it would become quite awkward, I think, and quite challenging. So I think that it's probably, I agree with everything that's said. I think it's better if you can come. I think there's extenuating circumstances that you might consider, but that's that, and highly exceptional.
Yes, I remind people that some of our smaller parishes, we've got a phone signal still and everything else, so having a hybrid or a remote meeting would be nigh on impossible. Councillor Osborne.
Sorry, Chair, one more comment from me. The other thing as well, we're all reliant on the technology that we've got at home or wherever we're going to do that remote meeting from. And with the best will in the world, I've seen that fail on numerous times. So although I do see the benefit of being able to get certain positions done or meetings done like that, not sure it should be the norm at all, really.
Okay, thank you. So I'm assuming, Chief Executive, you're going to be the one responding to the consultation on our behalf, and I think the message is pretty loud and clear that we are against.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm in a slightly uncomfortable position in more ways than one, given that I'm one of the reasons why it's hybrid tonight. But I'll try and stay on my feet. Yes, just confirm then. I'll fill it in on the basis of this council's view is only exceptional circumstances in respect to remote meetings and not at all in respect to proxy votes. So yeah, we'll fill it in accordingly.
Thank you very much. So I shall move that recommendation with those comments from the chair, seconded by Councillor Ridley. All those in favour? Yeah, it's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 15 is the performance management. So this report updates members on the work of the new data analyst with regard to additional performance management information to be reported to members. and the public as the council continues to review and strengthen its approach to performance reporting. I'm pleased to say that our new data analyst is with us this evening. And I'm really sorry, I don't know your name, but sitting next to Trudy, or in between Trudy and Evan. And we'll run through a few slides to give us an overview of Power BI work to date. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, all. I'm Charlotte. Pleased to meet you, and thank you for spending the time to allow me to demonstrate what it is that I've been working on for you. So first of all, I'm just going to run through a presentation just to get a bit of an insight. I know some of you probably know about Power BI, but why we're using it and what it's going to do for us as a council. So Power BI and Power Business Intelligence is a tool from Microsoft that helps turn data into easy to read visuals, to track KPIs, to make informed decisions. Why are we going to use Power BI? To centralise and enhance our data analysis for the services provided by the council. What are our goals? To improve and standardise our data for analysis, to provide real-time, easy-to-view and accurate insights, to make informed data-driven decisions, to enhance strategic planning, to identify trends and patterns to understand long-term performance. Aligning with our organisational goals will allow us to measure what truly matters for our success. What is our process and key findings? Data integration. We're collecting data from all sources, so databases, Excel. We're going to cleanse that data and identify and correct any errors in a data set to improve quality and reliability. KPI development, visuals to present to end users, members, officers, residents. What will we achieve? A structured process laying the foundation for accurate and reliable reporting. What key findings have we come across? The understanding the value of data and how it is recorded. That has been, for the last 3 months, my key finding. It's not a bad thing, but what does that impact? How does that impact us? Missing or incomplete data leads to inaccurate data, inefficiencies and less accurate reporting. So what are the results so far and what are our future benefits? Power BI has already enhanced data visibility and quality, helping us to identify those gaps. This means that we can make current changes to our processes. What are the future benefits? Enhanced data quality. Addressing existing data gaps will result in more comprehensive and precise KPIs. Efficient service delivery, reliable data supports optimised processes and better allocation of our resources. Scalable reporting. With a standard framework in Power BI, we can scale to new KPIs as our needs evolve. Our focus, to continue refining our data processes, to address existing data gaps and to introduce new KPIs as priorities evolve. Our goal is to continuously improve data accuracy, efficiency and transparency across the council. So next, I would like to share with you the dashboard that I've been working on. Welcome to our homepage of our dashboard. So there is a help section that you can access, which will just guide you a little bit into using the dashboard. The simple click on the help. Oops. Oh. Sorry. Got it. Zoomed in too much. So we can click the help on the main page and it will take us to this help page. By clicking help again, this will give you more of a detailed information of what buttons within that dashboard will allow you to do. To return back to the home page, simply click on our logo. So now we'll have a quick look at some of the visuals. So our first one is KPIs. This is a quick glance of where we are at. This can be filtered down using the year tabs across the top, and we can also look at quarters. The KPI visual will automatically look at the last quarter and of a year that's got full data. So we are currently looking within this data set 23, 24, 24, 25. So if I select that, you will see how the data changes. Moving on, we have KPI trends. Within these visuals, we are using the RAG status. We have chosen to use the RAG status to identify where we are doing well, where we need to look at, and where we're not doing so well. So the targets are based on that individual to each visual. The targets are in these visuals are example targets. So although the data is correct, please bear in mind that the targets are just as an example to what we can do and what we can show. Again, within here, we can look at what those indicators are based on. By clicking the information button, it will then show information on visuals that have more information available. Clicking onto there, we can then see what those indicators are for complaints and explaining the RAG system now. And moving on, we are showing in these visuals what we report to the LG. And from here, we can drill down into further information. For example, complaints. Here we can see where our complaints are across boards, departments. We can look at the method of contact. There are lots of other things that we can look at going forward if we wish. Again, all of these can be filtered down in years and by quarters. So here we can return back to our previous page and we can then move on to our next page. So communications. How are we performing within our website? We're looking at that here. And we can see where we've had a dip. That was due to us having a new website implemented. And from there, we're starting to make improvements. And where we do have dips, it is something that we are referring back to the team or to services to investigate those issues that are arising there. So we are hoping that then these will start to peak again. Another one we're looking at here is health and safety. So we can see that we have employee accidents and incidents, public and near misses. Again, we can filter down by using the icon in the corner, which will take us to show incidents by cause, by division, and as an overall to see the trend. We can return back to the health and safety, and then we can look at public. Again, by cause, division, and we can bring in the location. And our final one this evening to have a brief look at is the planning development for the major applications. So we can see how many we have come in and we can monitor the steps there. I'd like to thank you all for taking your time to listen and to share this dashboard with me. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it looks very, very good. Councillor Waffles.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Charlotte. I have experience with Power BI. When it works, it's great. I'm from a health background, and notoriously, it often goes down because of the lack of alignment with the complex healthcare systems that are running in the background. You're nodding, so I'm guessing you're aware of this. So my question is, what assurances can we have that A, checks have been done in the first place to implement this to the best of your ability, and the second part to it is, who will be sense checking it along the way to ensure that all the data is being captured so that the data is reflective and accurate, because that's what, in my experience, because I do a lot of IT for healthcare, this is the problem that we have, that they just don't align. You get your great dashboards when they're working, it's great, but if you're not checking that the data is reflective, then it's only fit for the purpose that, you know what I'm saying. Thank you.
I'll take that, Chair. So to the best of our ability, the data, so we're looking at the data, we're analysing it before, before we go back to services to raise that. So we're spotting trends and what looks right, what doesn't look right, and we're questioning each other and saying, does that feel about right? And we've got the source data, we've got our data, whether it's here in a spreadsheet, here in the system, it's our data that we're manipulating and working with. And as far as accuracy goes, because it's coming from our core systems, therefore it is accurate. I mean, Charlotte alluded to in her presentation that, you know, we're recording things in systems, then we're presenting it in a dashboard, and it might not look quite right. An example we've got over that is fly tipping. So we're recording how many cases we've got fly tipped, we're recording how many prosecutions, but we're not actually recording how many cases have got evidence to allow us to prosecute. So that's something that we've identified as a weakness from doing this, that we're now speaking to Sharon and the team. So we need to record that bit of data so we can record properly and make sure that that data is accurate for reporting in this dashboard. So we're doing that, and that will be a continuing improvement as we bring more and more data on board. And there will be things that we want to report to each board, probably. We'll have corporate things like health and safety and complaints, for example. And I'd like to see managers' dashboards. So, you know, staff survey results, sickness results and things like that. So we've got big plans.
Right, thank you. Got Councillor Riley and Councillor Bell, and then Councillor Coombs. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to know that Council is having a focus on performance or orientated working, because it's fundamentally important. There are a couple of work questions that I've bring into the table. We should not discount location, being able to identify trends in certain locations, worlds or neighbourhoods, because that leads us to identify hotspot locations where there are more than one problem existing at any one time. From my background, I used to go cold when we were the first performance beacons, because it was the greatest environment for bullying ever. So all the information has to be used sensitively internally in the organisation to make sure that those who are being held to account are able to genuinely influence the matters being discussed. We also need an action log to show that when decisions are made about that performance area, what then they were and why we think that they're impacted future performance.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Bell and then Councillor Coombs.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm assuming that this information is available to officers and councillors only. Will any of it be available to the public? It'd be quite interesting to think about what should be available and how they get to it. And so that brings me on to, where is it? I mean, I know it's there, but how do we get to it? Is it live? And if it's not live now, when will it be?
Take that now, Chair.
Thank
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you very much. So Charlotte Allen Stubbs, our data analyst, would have emailed you a link today. So we could be on that. So any problems, go to Charlotte, not me. Please.
Yeah, I know I had one that couldn't access it and have given that. So if nobody has received it, then I do apologise because it should have got to you.
There will be elements of what you've seen today that will be public and won't be. So you're getting the hot off the press. So Charlotte's been with us for 3 months in our team. Sorry, Alison, came from finance previously. And she's been working on this for 3 months. So it might look like there's only 6 small dashboards. There's a lot of work that's gone into that. So we'll be coming up with officers, with the data owners, if you like, as to what goes public, what is members and what is officers, because there will be discrete lines between that. So yeah, valid one.
So that implies different access routes for people,
Yes,
different groups of people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So this on the email is our access route.
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you like me to take Councillor Riley's?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Excellent point about awards. So yeah, I think that's something we'll take on board, especially around the complaints which were in a previous agenda item. So I think that's fantastic suggestion. Action logs. So the way that officers will report won't change. We're not looking to change how Director of Housing brings you a report on housing matters. What we're looking to do is enhance that, and this will. Whereas the Chief Exec has previously brought a narrative report on performance, we're hoping that in time this will be replace that. So I'm sure the Chief Exec will still want to do some narrative. Can't see Steve's face at the moment. But,
He's nodding.
Thanks, Steve. So I'm sure that there will be still some narrative elements to performance, but we're hoping that in time we'll just see this grow and grow and grow. And because this is live data, where anything that's narrative is obviously at that point in time. So this is live and it will be live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Clues.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Bell did do two that I was going to ask is where is it? Is it live? And the other one was, because I did get an email because I recognised the name, but I still jet lagged, so I haven't opened the email up. Do you do free training? How to use it?
It is something I would like to do a video, so people are able to follow that video and use that. Yeah, it is something.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Barney.
I was waiting.
You got into the habit, haven't you?
I knew you'd have, because this is what you
Yeah,
do,
that's me.
isn't it?
I don't do so much of the visualization these days. I'm more doing the data side of things. But yeah, I think generally it's a really good start. I think one thing I would like to see in future, and I guess it depends whether the data is available, is more kind of elapsed times for some of these types of things, like planning, for example. It'd be nice to have an idea of how long it takes to determine the planning application, particularly because in planning, there is those late decisions. It'd be nice to know how many are getting close to that deadline and we're just getting them in. Those sort of things. And there'll be other processes that are similar, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Most informative, and we look forward to getting on that link and looking at all the coloured pages, etc. Thank you very much. So I'll move the recommendation from the chair, seconded by Councillor Riley. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 16 is the calendar of meetings. The report seeks members' approval for the calendar of this council's meetings for the year 2025-26.
Can I just, sorry, would you mind if I just made a point?
Not disagreeing with the calendar. What I would like to raise is that the subgroups could do with being on there as well. So, for example, we were looking at the health and wellbeing group when we weren't able to access our iPads,
and it's not on the public domain. So if you go in there, you can't see any of the subgroups. And I think it's quite important that the public also know that we don't just do the boards and the meetings. You know, we have all the things that we are involved in, and also for us as a quick reference. So it would be really useful if we could have the subgroups as well. Thank you.
I think that's a very good point, actually, because there's been a number of occasions, as you look, particularly me, I look and I go, and I'll have to rely on officers to remind me that I'm meant to be at a subgroup occasionally. So can we take that on, Julie? Just we need some more colours on that on the calendar.
Can you invent some colours?
Yeah. I've got Councillor Bell, Councillor Bell, Councillor Clues, and then Councillor Watson.
Just a question, Chair. When we put this together, do we look at parish councils and town councils as well?
We are starting to look at those.
Yeah.
We've had some from both groups, the meetings that they've got planned in. So we do look at those as well. But the ones that we try to follow a cycle, so they're kind of predetermined, a lot of them. But we are considering them as well.
It's like man said, affects me and Margaret. You see, theirs is, I think theirs is third Tuesday, not in Margaret.
Well, it's tomorrow.
Oh,
Anyway.
every other day.
Parish council meetings.
Yeah.
No, we don't look at. I mean, we don't look at everybody's parish council meetings.
Okay.
We just look at the ones that are booked in for this building. We don't look
Right.
at everybody's.
I think it's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, you know, how many we've got 42 parishes in this in the borough. So to try and schedule our meetings around that, it's nigh on impossible, but we do our best. I think it's fair to say, well, the officers do their best. Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Can I just ask, we will still get electronic calendar invites?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, I think
It's not in Outlook to me, it doesn't exist in the world, sorry.
Yeah,
We tend to send the services tend to send the main board meetings out, and the working party groups, they come from more chief exec admin. So they come from a separate source. So I think they still send the meeting invites.
As long as they're in the calendar, so, and then because then if they get moved, they move in the calendar as well. And it just makes life a lot easier. That's what the tool's for.
What's the matter with a paper diary?
Yeah, following up, I think it's a good point. I mean, as Julie said, yeah, individual officers will send out for the working groups and the subgroup, etc. But as far as I'm aware, that calendar invite only goes to the members of that working party or that group, does it?
Housing does.
Yeah.
Because it would be useful if it went to all members, just in case there's a substitute.
I'm not sure on that because we don't send those out. I mean, the main boards we send to everybody, whether if they're on the board or not.
Yeah.
So we do that, but it's something I mention.
And if I might just raise one more thing, just to make Trudy cringe, it'd be nice if we can get all our calendars in one place.
Oh. Challenge accepted.
Okay. So with those comments, move the recommendation from the chair, seconded by Councillor Osborne. Thank you. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Item number 17 then is the corporate peer challenge. Members will recall that the council had a corporate peer challenge in September, and further to the feedback given at the end of the visit, the council has now received the feedback report. This is reported to members for information at this stage and will be made available on our website following this meeting, in line with the corporate peer challenge procedure. An action plan to address the main action points recommended by the peer team will be reported to this board's next meeting. As the report sets out, the feedback from the peer team was overwhelmingly positive. There are a number of recommendations to address issues where the council can improve upon this positive position, and work has already started on a number of those points. As can be seen from some of the agenda items this evening on performance, reviewed policies, accounts and audit. Moving in the right direction. We'd already preempted what the the peers were going to say, and we put a lot of things into place. Now we're showing them. Anybody got any comments, questions? Good. I'll move the recommendation from the chair then, seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Excuse me. Item number 18 is the Longley Public Spaces Protection Order. Council has previously made a public spaces protection order in respect of an area in Longley that had previously been very badly affected by fly tipping. Council now needs to determine whether to continue with the order, and given the positive impact the order has made on fly tipping in this location, the report recommends that the council consults on a proposal to make another order here. Clearly, this is my ward. Longley is not unique to fly tipping by any stretch of the imaginations, but it is particularly badly affected because of the the proximity of the motorway. We are seeing more and more people, just nipping off the M6, Crawley services, and they just, tip wherever they like. So it is particularly bad. As I say, it is not unique to the borough by any stretch of the imagination, but it was particularly bad in a couple of locations in Longley. Councillor Riley, did you indicate to speak? Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to speak in support of the recommendation. I chaired the Community Safety Partnership meeting, to which we initially agreed to the use of the order in Longley. And after to reading the report, the locations have seen a significant reduction in incidents. That has to be direct proof that the order works. And I suppose the final comment, just to recognise North Roxburgh Council's leadership nationally in terms of use of PSOs, and to celebrate it.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
I just wanted to clarify something really. So the existing order came to effect in August 21 and lasted for 3 years. Does that mean it's expired now then?
Yeah.
So it's not enforced currently?
So just exceed. We go for next. Well,
it'll be a new one, simply a new year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Riley.
Yes, Chair. From memory, we conducted a public consultation at the time of first considering the order, and the only feedback came was from off-roader groups who wanted to drive their vehicles down the bridle path in question, and it received great community support in terms of its intended impact. So on the basis is that it has been a success, and on the basis that it is a relatively straightforward and resource intensive intervention, I'd like to make a recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, just really quickly, it's obviously had an effect, as you've said, in Longley. It is fairly easy to consult with the community on these things. So it'll be useful to look at other areas where we've got a particular problem and consider the use of a PSPO there as well. It's obviously had an effect. It could be a tool that we use in other areas that have got a bit of a spike going on. We'd see through the new system how well it would work as well.
We could almost do with a PSPO for the borough.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, because as I say, there are, for Longley, as I've said before, is not unique. We've got massive problems. I mean, only on Friday, it's in Longley, but Dormer rang Again, it's a very, very narrow lane and fire tipped and block the lane, you know, so, you know, we can all, I'm sure, have got incidents in our own wards where fire tipping has been, has occurred, so we could almost do with, as I say, a blanket PSVO for the borough when it relating to fly tipping. Councillor Riley.
Yes, just some, sentence of one point. At the time of determining the order, we had a piece of analysis which flags all of the fly tipping hotspots across the borough. This location, from my memory, was far and away the worst repeat location.
Well, now we've got our new performance power bank and dashboard. We'll be able to look at where the hotspots is and address these. You know, in all seriousness, I mean that's what we should be doing. You know, it is as well as we all know. You know, fly tipping is a national problem. It's not unique to North Warwickshire, but it's certainly you know, because of our location. You know, we seem to be, you know, more badly affected than other areas. As I say, I mean, you know, you just see them coming off the motorway into our lovely rural borough and just tipping whatever they want, and it's just not right. So, you know, as we know, this is just another sort of tool in our arsenal, if you like, or a weapon in our arsenal to try and to combat them. Okay, so I'll move it from the chair. Seconded by Councillor Riley. Sorry, you'd moved it, I'll second it. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item number 19 is the minutes of the Safer Community Subcommittee held on the 12th of November. Anybody got any comments or queries? Okay. So move those as noted. Item number 20 is the exclusion of the public and press to consider, in accordance with section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, whether it is in the public interest that the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by Schedule 12A to the Act. Move from the chair. Seconded by Councillor Clues. All those in favour? Thank you very much. I haven't got any